The night it happened, the rain didn't fall gently, it crashed down like the sky itself was angry. If you've ever wondered how one small act of kindness can change generations, stay with me until the end of this story. And if stories that touch your heart matter to you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe, because what you're about to hear might just restore your faith in humanity. Daniel Harris was locking up the small auto repair shop he worked at when he heard crying near the dumpster behind the building. Not the loud kind, just broken, exhausted sobs that sounded like they'd been held in for far too long. Daniel was a single dad in his late 30s, worn down by life but softened by it too. Ever since his wife passed away years ago, leaving him alone with a young daughter, he had learned that pain didn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it hid in corners, hoping someone would notice. When he rounded the corner, he saw them. A woman with a bruised cheek, her arm wrapped protectively around a thin boy who couldn't have been more than 8. They were soaked, shivering, clutching a single torn bag. The boy's eyes weren't crying anymore. They were empty, like he'd already learned that tears didn't help. The woman flinched when she saw Daniel. "I'm sorry," she whispered quickly. "We'll leave. We were just a broken bar resting." Daniel held up his hands gently. "You don't have to go. It's freezing out here." "Are you hurt?" Her eyes filled again, but she nodded. "I'm Sarah. This is my son, Leo. We don't have anywhere to go." Daniel didn't ask for details right away. He knew better. He grabbed his jacket, wrapped it around the boy, and led them inside a warm, oil-scented shop. He made them hot tea using the old kettle he kept for long nights. Only after Leo stopped shaking did Sarah speak. She told him everything in pieces. How her husband Leo's father had died suddenly months earlier. How her wealthy in-laws had blamed her, accused her of turning their son against them, and eventually threw her out when she refused to sign documents she didn't understand. How things escalated into shouting, then shoving, then one night a broken bar fists. She took Leo and ran with nothing. Daniel listened without interrupting. He'd known grief. He'd known the cruelty of people who cared more about control than love. When Sarah finished, she stared at the floor like she was waiting for judgment. Instead, Daniel said, "You can stay with us tonight." That tonight turned into days, then weeks. Daniel lived in a modest 2-bedroom house with his daughter, Emily, who was 12 and wise beyond her years. Emily welcomed Sarah and Leo without hesitation, giving up her room so they could sleep comfortably. At night, Daniel lay awake, wondering if he was doing the right thing, but every time he doubted himself, he remembered Leo's empty eyes and knew he had no choice. Life wasn't easy, money was tight. Daniel worked extra shifts, sometimes coming home with hands so sore he could barely hold his fork. Sarah insisted on helping however she could. She cleaned houses during the day and cooked meals at night. Slowly, the bruises on her face faded, but the fear lingered. Leo rarely spoke. When he did, it was in whispers, like he was afraid of being heard. One evening, Daniel found Leo in the garage, staring at an old broken watch Daniel kept as a keepsake. "My dad had one like this," Leo said softly. It was the longest sentence he'd spoken in weeks. Daniel smiled. "Watches tell time, but they also tell stories. That one reminds me that even broken things can be fixed." Leo nodded, gripping the watch like it was something sacred. Months passed. Sarah received letters from her in-laws' lawyers, threatening, cold, full of words meant to scare. Daniel helped her find legal aid, but they were always one step behind. What Daniel didn't know was that Leo's father hadn't just been wealthy, he'd been the sole heir to a massive tech fortune, and Leo was next in line. The truth came out one afternoon when 2 black SUVs stopped outside Daniel's house. Men in suits stepped out, along with an older woman whose posture radiated authority. Sarah went pale the moment she saw her. "It's them," she whispered. Daniel stood between them and the door without thinking. When the woman introduced herself as Leo's grandmother and demanded to see her grandson, Daniel's voice stayed calm but firm. Not without a court order, and not without his mother's consent. What followed was a storm of legal battles, accusations, and pressure Daniel had never imagined. Private investigators dug into his life. Old debts surfaced. His job was threatened. At one point, Sarah begged him to step away, afraid he'd lose everything because of her. Daniel shook his head. Family doesn't abandon family when it gets hard. The court case revealed the truth. Leo's father had left everything to his son, placing Sarah as trustee. The grandparents had tried to force her to sign away control, and when she refused, they used violence and power to erase her. The judge ruled in Sarah's favor. The fortune was secured for Leo. The grandparents were ordered to stay away. When it was over, Sarah collapsed into tears, not of fear, but relief. Leo ran to Daniel and hugged him tightly for the first time. "You didn't have to help us," he said, "but you did." The money changed many things, but not the most important ones. Sarah bought a safe home. Daniel paid off his debts. Emily went to a better school. But they stayed together, not because they needed to, but because they wanted to. Years later, people would talk about Leo as the billionaire heir, the future CEO, the child of unimaginable wealth. But Leo always corrected them. "I learned who I was," he'd say, "in a house where love was worth more than money." And Daniel? He never thought of himself as a hero. He was just a single dad who heard someone crying in the rain and chose not to walk away. If this story moved you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because sometimes, the stories that change us most are the ones that remind us how powerful kindness can be, especially when no one's watching.